and welcome to my channel, Courageous Communication. Today, I am so excited to welcome my friend and fellow therapist, Alison, who is a licensed professional counselor in Texas, to the channel. Alison earned her bachelor's in psychology from Southwestern University and a master's in marriage and family therapy from St. Mary's University. She has over 30 plus years of experience and currently works with adults, couples, and teens in her private practice. So please help me to welcome Alison.
Hey
Hey,
there.
Alison.
Hi, Jessica. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for inviting me to your channel. This is exciting.
Absolutely.
This is a first for me.
Oh, well, it's only a third for me, like we talked about
Ah,
earlier. So, we're almost the exact same. So today, Alison is going to be talking to us about how to handle the holidays. So kind of about being present, enjoying the holidays, and maybe even giving us some strategies for the season, because we're kicking it off and we're kind of off and running already, aren't we?
absolutely. I mean, we are here.
Yeah.
We are here. We are crossing into holiday season big time this week.
Yeah. And
For
and
sure.
the reason that this is such a timely message is that there are so many families that are so excited to gather and have a great time together. But then there are some families that struggle, and we are going to address kind of both ends of that
Mhm.
spectrum. Isn't that correct, Allison?
Right, right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
And I
so,
think even in the families that are having a great time, there are challenges that come with that as well.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. So, wherever you want us to go, we're ready to go with you. So, if you want to just kind of start wherever you have
Okay.
planned for us, and then I'll jump in and we'll just have a good little conversation.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. So I would start by asking you and anybody out there to take a minute and think back, close your eyes if you want to, think back to the past, to your past holiday memories. And which are the memories that really jump out at you, that really that you treasure, the things that, like, the moments that you really think, oh my gosh, that's what makes the holidays for me. And think about what those are. So do you have a thought, Jess? Do you have a thought about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, off of the top of my head, anyone who knows my family, which some of the people who watch this broadcast do, we are loud people. And so I kind of just think about kind of like loud chaos that's happening in the house. And even though sometimes that can be overwhelming, or for some people it can be overwhelming, for me, that's like, oh, my heart just pitter patters. Like that's me being home. There's loud laughing, there's jokes, there's just lots of things going on, people moving, tons of different conversations going on at the same time. So that kind of makes me just those are the memories I love about the holidays.
Yeah, me too. When I think back to, well, it's funny because I grew up with a great big family, lots of aunts, uncles, and cousins. And so my earlier memories were more like that. And then now my family is fairly small, so it's not quite as loud and chaotic. But I do think about certain things, like every year for years, we did the turkey trot. That was a big thing. We'd get up early, we'd go do the turkey trot. Um, Eat breakfast tacos at Bill Miller on our way home and come back and cook Thanksgiving meal. And that's my Thanksgiving. I think about things like walking the neighborhood. That was something that I did with my kids when they were little. And now that we're all grown up, on a pretty night, get something hot to drink and walk around and look at all the lights. So really simple things like that. And so I think what I would want to say is to really think about what's important to people, for people to think about what's really, really important to them, because there are so many, we can get so carried away with expectations. I think we can just want to do it all and want it to be perfect. And I think that that's where the joy kind of gets stolen from us, is trying to do too much and trying to kind of squeeze it all in, and then we end up just feeling exhausted and overspent, and just disappointed that we couldn't do everything we wanted to do. So I guess my first tip would be to really think about that, what your most important things are, and let those be kind of your guiding north stars for the holidays, and to keep those in mind. I think
And
this
you said
year,
to really think about what it was important to you, right? You kind of glitched
yeah.
just for a second. I just want to make sure
Oh
that,
yeah.
that's what your guiding post is just those things that are really important to
That are
you.
most important, because you're not going to be able to do everything. And if we don't know what's the most important to us, then we are not going to be able to stay true to those things that we're going to try to, and those things may end up going by the wayside, because we're thinking about all the other things, trying to squeeze everything else in. And then we get to the end and we're like, but we didn't make time for the things that really were important to us. So, I think that there is, this year in particular, there's even more pressure because a lot of us didn't get together last year to celebrate because of the pandemic. And so many families were just celebrating by themselves, or not able to visit. Grandkids weren't able to visit, all that. So I think this year, I don't know about you, but I started seeing decorations like long before Halloween even.
Yes,
So I
Christmas
feel like the pressure
came
is even
early.
strong. Yes. And it's, we're feeling a lot of pressure to order everything early and to be prepared, because there might not, be the supplies that we need. And so there is even more, I think, a feeling of urgency and panic, and it's easy to get pulled away in that. I think also, just like anything else, the images that we see out there are so curated for perfection. The things that people post, the ads, everything that we read, that we can often feel like we're falling short. And I think that we have to really that's why it's so important to set your priorities, I think, and think about what's important to you, what can you manage. So I
I
think
like that
sometimes,
you said that about I'm going to just jump in about the supply chain,
yeah,
possibility issues. It's just, I always think about that kind of in the way of like, that makes it another, you said, we talked about Christmas felt like it came early because everyone was so excited to, decorate and do different things. But then also that prolonged season can sometimes be like the longer you're in it, the
yes.
more exhausting it can become.
Totally. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I know sometimes when I go shopping and I'm tired, I just start throwing stuff in the cart, or I'm packing for a trip. The longer I have, almost, it's ridiculous, because I start trying to throw everything in there. And I think when we have a really long time to prepare for a holiday, we start just, adding this and adding that. And before you know it, we're just bulging with over stuffed calendars and overspent budgets. And so being really choosy about what you put in, and choosing the things that really matter to you. So I think one idea that can be fun is, like, in a family, have everybody pick one thing that's really important, so to make sure that that's protected in that family, and that those things are the things that are top priorities. So you may ask everybody to say, what's one favorite thing you want to make sure we can include? And I'm not talking about gifts or things like that so much, but more experiences. So for me, I think it would be being able to walk the neighborhood one night, and with, everybody together if we could, and see the lights, because that's something that I love to do and it's meaningful to me. I think one of my daughters, my kids are grown up now, might say they love it when we watch a really corny Hallmark movie, and she's created this bingo card that has little sentences and things from Hallmark movies, and we all play bingo and make fun of it, and eat snacks. And so if everybody can kind of put one thing in that's important to them, then you can make sure that those really important things get the attention and get the time that they deserve. And then anything else we put in is great, but at least we've taken care of our priorities. What do you have something you just, that says the holidays for you, that you would want to make sure
Well,
and
that
include?
is one thing, kind of what you said about like being able to go and look at the lots. Since we've
Mhm.
moved to the city, whatever that really means, I always feel like we only really have access to our own little HOA or your own little area that you live in because people don't let you into their gated communities. And so I love being able to go home and just drive down the roads and see everyone's lots and know who those lots belong to. That's so wonderful for me because I can be like, oh well, that's the so and so's, or oh, look, that's so and so's house, or look how good they did. That's so good, and really like be able to put the decoration effort and the person together as well,
Oh,
and
that's
almost
fun.
like an
Yeah.
experience for yourself, like you were a little bit a part of it because you saw what they did. So I really enjoy that.
That's awesome. And research shows that we remember experiences so much more than we remember any kind of like a gift or some kind of a thing. We remember experiences. So those moments are like gems that we carry with us. We can go back to those moments and remember them. And I mean, I hardly remember. I think we were talking before about hardly remembering what we got last year for Christmas as far as a gift goes, but the moments that stand out, you remember, and you can really treasure those. So
When you
yeah,
said that, I actually got to thinking about it, and I do remember one gift I got, and the only reason I remember it is because two people have either mentioned it to me or text me asking me what exactly it was so that they can get that gift for someone else. That's why I know I got it for Christmas.
how funny,
But
because
I
it's
would have
the
never put
experience
that
of somebody
together.
else asking you.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So that would be my first really big tip is just being really clear on priorities and setting those aside and taking time to think those through, and to, if you're celebrating with other people, whatever family you might be celebrating with or friends, getting clear on kind of those hopes and expectations, and not trying for perfection, because comparison and perfection, those are the biggest joy killers. No matter how much we try to have the perfect Christmas cookie, we're going to see a picture of a Christmas cookie that looks even better than ours, and we're going to feel bad about what we've got if we're comparing. So really trying to keep reminding ourselves, hey, this is here, I'm here, this is what I've got, this is where I am, and being happy in that moment, and really trying not to let your mind go to that comparison place. Because I feel, and you said it before, um, when you look at something, you say, is this experience is it gonna matter 5 minutes from now? What is it, 5 days from
5
now, 5
days,
months?
5 weeks, 5 months, or 5 years from now. And so thinking about that, like engaging in activities that kind of
Yes,
cast long shadows, if to kind of
yes.
put it in perspective, is like, okay, well, what seed am I sowing with what I'm doing? Is this going to be something that yields harvest and a
Mhm.
continuous harvest and a wonderful harvest, or is this going to be something that, okay, I got my toy and threw it away in a month, or
Yes.
the wheel broke off, or whatever, so kind of looking at it in that way, I think it's really important.
And when we think about where we're putting our energy, we can so often put our worries and our energy and our all of that stress on those things that really are going to be the 5 minute things, maybe,
Mhm.
but not even the 5 hour things necessarily. So it's a great way to kind of keep rebalancing and recentering, is like saying, is this really worth all my energy right now to be worrying so much about this one thing, when in the grand scheme of things, I'm not even going to remember what this. I keep going back to cookies because I'm not a baker. I love to cook. I love to cook, but I am not a good baker, or I'm not a very precise baker. So my things don't look pretty usually. And as a result of that, I feel like at Christmas, that's where I put my pressure on. Sometimes it's a waste, is that I want to have the, beautiful baked goods. And then I thought, why why does that matter? The bakery makes really great cookies, or I can get my daughter or somebody else to make the homemade stuff, and I'm not going to put my energy there because it's not worth it. So
Okay,
kind of,
so for me, an energy stiller for me is, and anyone in my family knows this, and they'll tell you about it, and they know which gifts are for me because they come in the bag that I got from Target or Walmart or wherever I got their bag from. There is I do no wrapping. And that's
I
even for
love
my
it.
poor little baby nephew. Poor guy, he just opens his Walmart bag like the rest of them. And so yeah, I don't. And I kind of feel like, and there are some people who do a great job at, but for me, like me personally looking at it, those are just expenditures that I'm just like, that's, I mean, we just rip it up, we just
Yes.
throw it away. No, I, it's not worth
I
it to
love
me.
hearing I love hearing you say that because I'm a terrible, it kind of goes back to the cookie making. I'm not good at details like that. My bags look very homemade. And there are people in my family that do I have good friends that I love getting a present from them because they're beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's their thing. That's her thing. And I had to just let go of that's not my thing. I'm going to
Yes.
appreciate it when she gives me a present because it's beautiful, but that's not going to be my thing. So it's a great point. We cannot be all things to all people. So what are we really good at? What do we enjoy? And let's put our energy there. I think is a great tip. I would say also the shoulds, watching the shoulds, those awful shoulds that tell us I should be doing this or I should be doing that. I should be making all my homemade cookies or I should be, having a big holiday party when really this year is I'm exhausted and it's not a good year for it, whatever it is. So when you have those shoulds come up, um, it's really important to talk back to them a little bit and say
Mhm.
why.
Yeah.
Why should you do that? Because sometimes it is a lot of times it's just doesn't represent what we really want, what we really need,
Yeah.
realistic, realistic expectations, and we
Yeah.
put those shoulds on us for no good reason. And even if we did it, it wouldn't bring us any joy, it
Yeah.
wouldn't bring us any meaning. So when you hear that should, that's a sign to talk back to it and ask why, because if there's no good reason, then it's probably not a good place to put your energy.
I love that. There's a really great book that I always talk about, and it's wonderful. And it's about your best yes, and it is about learning to be able to say no to things and asking yourself, "Is this my best yes right now?" Because it's the power to like kind of have a guilt-free no,
Yeah.
because if you're not giving with a giving heart, then are you really giving? If you're not
Mhm.
serving with a servant's heart, are you really serving? Like, because everything stems from here, right? And so if it's just not for you and it's not that season for you, it's okay
Mhm.
to politely decline and use that two-letter word that for some reason has become a horrible word, but it's okay to say,
Yeah.
no, that's just not for me right now.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And, then you can really take your energy and put it where it counts. And somebody else will probably take care of what it was. It doesn't always have to be you. And
Yes.
that can be a real awakening to realize there are lots of people that can do things. It doesn't always have to be me. And I think for a lot of um, caregivers, I think for a lot of people who are sort of the nurturing folks in their family, it can be hard because they feel like they're always supposed to take that ask and say yes and do it. And it can be very hard to say no because you feel like you're being selfish or you feel like you're not being kind. But it's really okay to let other people step in sometimes. And that can be interesting. When you say that, it just popped in my mind about roles. We all kind of grow up with roles, thinking about the roles. I'm the peacemaker, I'm the clown, I'm the this or the that. And even as adults, we tend to, when we get back in our extended families, kind of find ourselves back in that role again. And I think it is a great time, like when we're anticipating getting together as a group, to say, is that really who I still am? Am I really
Is that the
still
role I want to
need
be
to be
in?
this? Yes. Is this who I need to be, how I want to be? And to kind of think about ways to avoid finding yourself getting into that role. And sometimes it's not even that others are trying to pull us in. We just kind of find ourselves willing to go right back into that spot. And often it doesn't fit who we are right now. So if your role in the past has been the person to say yes to everything and then to get exhausted and resentful or cranky or whatever, then maybe you can tell yourself, hey, this year I am going to really, really work on letting somebody else step in and help. And I don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
love that. Yeah,
it's kind
I
of
had this down. I said, it says, the goal is not to be exhausted and resentful, exactly what you
yes,
just said, but to be content and joyful, you know? And again, that's just kind of going into this season, knowing where you're at, not
yes,
where everyone else is, but where you're at.
exactly, exactly. And listening to those shoulds, because those shoulds will often lead you to that place, that role, whatever that is, because you're telling yourself you need to still do that. And sometimes you've really outgrown that, or that's not who you want to be anymore. And
Mhm.
so it's up to us to try and respond in different ways if
Yeah.
we can. So anyway, that's just a thought. And getting back together with our extended family is awesome, and it can also lead to some very interesting moments, about ourselves and other people. And that kind of leads me in a little bit to the challenges maybe of the holidays, and that is often we are not used to being, if kind of see it in a couple of different ways. Often there's too much togetherness, and sometimes there's not enough togetherness. And so, in the case of having too much togetherness, I think that if we're not used to being around a lot of other people for an extended period of time, that can be kind of stressful. My husband's an introvert. He's quiet. I mean, he's real talkative with me at home, but in a group, he can be more quiet. And so being in a house with a whole lot of people for a couple of days on end would be overwhelming for him if he didn't have a few things that he could do, like his crossword puzzle. He'll take his crossword puzzle and he'll go sit and be in the midst of everyone, but it'll give him a little bit of a bubble, a little bit of a space. And so I think if you know you're going into a situation, you talked about your family being loud and chaotic and lots of people, and
Yeah.
you may totally love that. And that may be great. And you may soak that up. But for some people, it may be a little bit like, whoa, I need to go have a few minutes to myself. Or you may even feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think about the fact that, now there's three sons-in-laws as well. And so, and their family dynamic was probably not what ours is, and
Yeah.
how, being, entrenched in what our family dynamic is, how that is for them as well. They tend to spend a lot of time outdoors
Yes. It's
by
probably a great
themselves, the
idea.
three of them together.
It's a great idea. Yes. So thinking about that, how do we look forward to all year or months coming up, maybe looking forward to being together, and then we get together and we get irritable or we get cranky or we get oh, I can't wait to get home. And then we go home and we feel bad that we weren't enjoying the time. So are there ways to kind of moderate um, and keep yourself in balance, and so that you can enjoy it while you're there? And one of the things I think about is that routines are, in the holidays we often throw our routines off the side,
Yeah.
and we overeat. We eat way too much, we spend too much, we if we normally like go to the gym, or we like to go for a walk, or we do things like that, we're probably not doing it as often. Things like even drinking water. I know that I have my routine at work where I have my big water and I drink all day long, and that's part of kind of how I take care of myself. But when I'm out and about and we've got family around and things are busy, I don't even pay attention to that nearly as much. And it'll be like the end of the day, and I think, what's wrong? And I think, I haven't even had any water all afternoon. So
Mhm.
little things like that. So if you're able to keep up with any of those healthy routines, even if it means, and it may serve two purposes. So you say, hey, I'm going to go take a run, and that'll give you some downtime. It'll be good for your body. It'll be good for your emotional state and give you some contrast to being together. So that would be another tip, is whatever whatever keeps you in balance, try to find little ways to incorporate that.
And I always think
When you're
about when you what you just said, and not because um and because I'm guilty of it too, whenever like there's always someone in the group, it seems like, who is doing the what should be the right thing, like going for a walk or going for a run or whatever. And the rest of the family's like, boo.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking about that it's okay for you to go do those things, even if everyone's not participating. And even if, everyone's like, why are you doing that? A lot of good that walk did. You just ate a cookie. It's not about that at this time. It's just about
Yeah.
getting out, being active, moving your body, or whatever
Yeah.
it is. If it's just drinking your water, whatever it is.
I agree. It's really important. And you may be able to do it, it may be a good way to kind of go off with one person at a time, maybe a cousin you don't get to see very often, or just if you can't do it by yourself, it's kind of nice just to have some smaller chats with people sometimes. So that may be a way to do that. And I think your point, you said something about even if other people don't want to do it, that's really good, because we had talked about this earlier too. Sometimes things on your important holiday list may not be important to other people, but that doesn't mean that you can't find a way to do it and squeeze it in for yourself. So if you really want to take that walk around the block and look at the lights and nobody wants to come with you, make yourself a hot chocolate, go by yourself, enjoy it. And because it's very easy for us to get back to that resentful word, resentful. If we feel like we're doing for everyone and no one's doing for us, we need to think about, okay, what can I do for myself to keep myself in balance? Because I'm going to be a more enjoyable person, and I'm going to feel better if I can keep myself in balance and not go overboard. Or if you know that you're going to have a big crazy meal with lots of great food and desserts and all of that, what can you do the rest of the day? Maybe have a salad or something healthy at lunch that'll make you kind of make up for it. And so little things like that during the day, I think, can be really helpful. I think another thing is giving each other, like doing things for each other. So if a family has different units that maybe have little kids, maybe you can trade off watching kids so people can have a few minutes to themselves. Moms and dads can go off, or whoever is there with the kids. Or if you're just being a really kind person, you may say, hey, go take a walk. I'm gonna watch the kids right now and give you a breather. So it's a great time to think about what can I do maybe to help somebody else out in the family, or to give them a little alone time. Because my daughter has a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and those alone times are very few and far between and precious. And so if I can give her a break, she can go take a walk, I think everybody's going to be, happier for that. So that's one thing to think about. I think getting together as a family, and there's some nervousness these days about conversations, because it feels like things have gotten very divisive, and the topics that were always kind of off the table anyway, they say don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. We're kind of talking about it, and a lot of times it can get very contentious.
Yeah, definitely not in a constructive way,
Yeah.
right? We're not talking
Yes.
about it trying to hear each other. We're just talking about it trying to make sure you know what I feel.
And maybe even change your mind.
Yeah, there you go.
Especially change your mind. So I think that the one thing that I would say about that, a couple ideas, because one of the things is, if there's an elephant in the room, and that elephant is that we know we don't have the same views as everybody else, or Uncle Joe feels a different way about this than I do, we don't have to bring up the elephant in the room just because we're all together. And if we're all going to be together just one day a year or 3 days a year, whatever that is, maybe we decide this isn't the time to talk about that. And that just because it exists doesn't mean we have to address it. There are lots of other things we can talk about. I know some families kind of make that rule, which is, we're not going to talk about politics today. We're not going to talk about how to raise kids, or whatever the hot button topic is, because they want to enjoy each other's time and use that time to kind of bond, not to burn down the bridges.
Yeah.
So it may be just deciding not to tackle that.
I think one
I think,
strategy you could use in that, especially if you know that your family is kind of split or there's a lot of different
mhm,
views in the family, is avoid the news networks. Just
great
on
idea.
TV. That's one of the easiest things you can do to not like spur a conversation that may lose, control of.
Yes. That's a great idea. Now there may be, and that's sort of another point. There may be that family member that really tries to push the hot button and wants the news on, or wants the whatever it is, or wants to go there, And I think learning how to bow out graciously when you feel like I don't want to go there, kind of knowing what your little phrase is going to be about, oh, let's not go there, let's not talk about that. Or sometimes people will cross a line and they'll say something inappropriate or unkind, and it's really okay to say, oh, that was really inappropriate, or that really hurt, or that was rough. You can say it in a kind but assertive way. So I think knowing where your line is, because there is that line that I think sometimes people will push and say something that's really hurtful or inappropriate. And I think it's okay to say that. You don't have to say it in a confrontational way, I think. So I think if we can think about those things ahead of time, it's a good idea. There's a phrase in family systems called not being a non-anxious presence. And I think that can be a great guide. Is like, sometimes you may not know what to say in a situation, or people might be getting testy with each other. But if you can just be a non-anxious presence in that setting and do your breathing and just kind of be the peaceful presence for yourself and for the group, it can really be pretty powerful.
Mhm.
Even though you may not be saying anything, you may not be doing anything, but you're being in control of your own energy, your own
Yeah.
space. I worked at a school for years, and our theater teacher had a sign on right before you walked into to her space, and it said, everyone isn't responsible for the energy they bring into this room. And I always liked that, because I can't control your energy, but I
That's
can really work to control mine.
yeah.
So if I'm feeling like there's a lot of tension or agitation, that's my cue, not to jump in there, but to really tune in and say, I need to do some breathing. I need to do some things to settle myself down
Mhm.
a little bit, and to be that non-anxious presence. So that's something that I like to think about. I think what I would also say is, it's real easy for us to focus on the places we don't connect and the places that we don't agree. But we can also really try to think about, there's got to be some place we connect. There's got to be something we've got in common. You and I might not agree on, how to raise kids, or, you know, religion or anything like that, but
Mhm.
we both love dogs. And I know you love your dog and I love my dog. And maybe that's what we can talk about. So I would encourage people to think about, to kind of look around the table and see the people around you, and really think about things that you can appreciate about that person. It can be totally internal in your head, or you could share it with them. But if we will land on that and put energy and attention into that, into like, what do I love about this person? What possibly, what way can we possibly connect? And to try to go there, it is amazing how your feelings inside can change. We're not carrying around that frustration and that agitation. We're actually carrying around feelings of appreciation, or love, or fondness, or a good memory.
Yeah.
So that's a great practice to do, just when you're sitting there in the midst of everybody, is to really focus on, what is it that I can appreciate about every person in this room, because somehow you're connected to them. Yeah. So
No, yeah, I
that's,
think that's a great idea because and I think you can know that going in so that you make yourself more comfortable, like
yeah,
intentionally, these are the subjects I'm going to try and talk to this person about. You kind of know where you're going
yes.
because I think sometimes there are people and usually not in our immediate families. But as we get into those extended
Yeah.
families where things can get like, in our family, we call that awkward turtle. And so we make our little, and it can get awkward turtle. You're just like, somebody save me. I don't know what to say, or we're in a weird place and I don't want to be here. And the conversation has definitely lulled and I don't know how to get away from this person now, and that's okay. It's okay to feel like that. I think sometimes we guilt ourselves for that because, oh, well, that's my family or that's my great aunt's,
Yes.
stepson thrice removed, or whatever. It's okay not to have great connection with everyone, but just be mindful of it and know kind of something about them that you can at least a jumping off point.
Yes. That is so funny, Jessica, because that reminds me, I just had a wonderful and funny memory come back to this was probably, oh gosh, maybe 10 years ago. My very favorite, dear, dear, dear uncle, his name was Uncle Junior.
Mhm.
And my mom passed away when I was much younger. And so he was always kind of I always just felt really close to him in a parental kind of way.
Mhm.
And he loved to talk. And he was very interesting, but often didn't know when to stop. And I have a picture of my daughter. Actually, I have two pictures of my daughter talking with him at this holiday meal. And one of them is, I have it framed. He's giving her a kiss on the cheek and she's smiling and they are having a great conversation. And she adored him. She did. I also have a picture that I snuck because he was talking and he did not know how to stop. And she literally started to cry because the conversation went on so long. So I have this picture also of the pain look. And that to me is like perfect wrap up of the family. Like we love these people and we have wonderful moments with them and they can drive us crazy
Yes.
in a way that other people just can't. And that's just, yeah, I agree. We just kind of have to accept that's part of the package, and we look back on it. I know she looks back. We all look back on that night and just with really great fond memories, and we still laugh about it because she could not get out of this conversation. So yeah, that's family.
Good.
So the other thing that I would really want to talk about, because I see a lot of this in my practice and people that I work with, is people who are alone, who aren't married, either maybe divorced or they're widowed or they're single or whatever reason they're living alone. And the holidays can be a really, really hard time for them. It's almost like
Mhm.
they dread it because the story that they're telling themselves is that they're less than because they don't have a mate or because they don't have children or because they don't have a lot of people in their household. Maybe they live alone. And so the holidays can feel very lonely, or it can feel like, I just want to get through it. I don't want to, I'm going to pretend like it's any other day. And yet there's a yearning in them, I think, to have it be a special time. It is a special time for them. So I guess I would say, if you're in that position, if you are single, you're alone for whatever reason, um, to watch the talk in your head, first of all, that says you're not enough and that says that just because you're not married or you don't have children or whatever, that you aren't lovable, or that if somebody invites you over, it's just because they feel sorry for you or that you'll be out of place. Because I think that um, we just have to watch those thoughts, because a lot of times they're not based on anything in reality. There are fears and our insecurities, and we can keep people from being there for us and loving us and wanting to include us. Because
Mhm.
um you know i um I have many single friends, and I love to include them for the holidays when we have a big gathering. And I never thought, oh gosh, they shouldn't be here because they don't have a mate. And likewise, I was single for years myself. And um it was hard on the weekends and on holidays, because I remember feeling like, oh gosh, everybody's with their family and this isn't a time for me to come. So we have to kind of push past that a little bit, because people love you because they love you, and people want to include you because they care about you. And so if that's something we want to do, to go join in a gathering, that's great. Or if it's not and you want to do something on your own, treat yourself, do something
Mhm.
special, but plan it, plan that time in advance to say, gosh, okay, what would I love to do on this day? Maybe I'll take a walk at the botanical gardens on this day. I think they're open. Maybe they're not open on Christmas, but you could plan something special for yourself. Or I'm going to go get some great bagels and all the trimmings and have a great breakfast for myself, on Christmas morning, or whatever that is. To plan something because you deserve to have a great experience, and maybe you bring that experience on to yourself. And but think about it, be intentional about it. um
I really like that. And this goes back to when I was really young, and we still went to my grandparents' home for, I believe, it's Christmas time. And I mean, I feel like it was every year. Maybe I'm wrong. Of course, that was a long time ago. But there were these two people, they were married, and they came to our holidays all the time. And there there's never anything in me when they were there that was like, this is
yeah,
awkward, or which I was seeing it through the lenses of a child's eyes. But
yeah,
as we continued to grow, then it was just normal that they were there. They had no family ties to us, but they were there, and it would have been weird if they weren't there. So
yeah,
I kind of really encourage people that I really don't think that people will think that you're a bird. I don't think people ask people to come over unless they really want them to come over, I guess,
right.
or at least I don't.
I agree. I agree. And you can ask yourself, like, oh, they must want me there. Here's what I can contribute to this day. I'm gonna share my goofy sense of humor. I'm gonna be whatever it is. We all have things that we bring to the table. And to really, remember that you're bringing something that is valued, that is of value. And it doesn't have anything to do, our value doesn't have anything to do with who we bring, who we're with. And so we have to kind of remind ourselves that, I think, sometimes. um and also, uh, the way we celebrate this year may not be how we celebrated before. So maybe you are divorced this year, or you're a widow, or whatever that is. You may have had some great, big family celebrations in the past. It doesn't mean that it has to be the same, but it can still be something that's meaningful to you. So life, we go through all sorts of stages and phases, and they're all different. But we can still think about what's important to us right now, and how can I bring some of that into my holiday, into this, a little festivity into my holiday season.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to volunteer. There's a whole lot of there are many studies about gratitude, and that practicing gratitude, and practicing generosity are two of the best ways to deal with anxiety, with depression, with feelings of loneliness, feelings of isolation. So the holidays are great times. A lot of organizations need volunteers for their holiday meals, things like that. Often churches will put on things for the congregation, and many of the people there volunteer. So if there's something that you want to feel a part of something bigger, find something that's meaningful for you, if you like, and you can volunteer in that way. And that's a great way to connect, and also to practice kind of that gratitude, because it's really hard to, when we're focusing outwards like that, and taking the focus off ourselves, whether you're single or in a family, in any way, it's a great way to reconnect with kind of something bigger. So that's
Absolutely.
another, yeah. So that's another thought. I think that I would say also, if you are in a larger family, think about who are those people we could include, who may not have a family to celebrate with this year, or may be going through a rough time, and can we invite them and include them in any of our celebrations. So to think about that, think about those people, and find a way to see if we can include them, I think would be great. I know for us growing up, when my kids were growing up, some of the best years we invited people from the military to come for Thanksgiving. And we've had more fun bringing people in and getting to know them, the guys and gals in basic training when they go through, because they're all here in San Antonio. And that is, oh my gosh, we've had so much fun doing that through the years. So
I have wanted to do that. Well, that's one thing that I have heard about San Antonio is you can like, I guess like put your name out there
yeah,
and they'll send people to
it's,
your house. And
they do. You go pick them up.
and I was like, what? And I want to do that. So I know they weren't doing it again this year because of COVID and different things.
Yeah.
So just out of concerns, they definitely didn't do it last year. And then that year before that was actually we were moving into our house on Thanksgiving. We actually had kind of what you're saying about make it what it is. We went to the Shell across the street and we got a pizza to cook in our oven. And when we were packed, we weren't supposed to have any type of alcohol in the actual moving, but one wine bottle made it. We didn't have a wine opener, so we had to kind of like bust the top of it. And so we had pizza and wine for Thanksgiving. And we were trying to start to unpack and get things together. But I mean, that was our first time to ever, either one of us, not be with our family on a
Wow.
holiday. And
You'll
so
never forget that, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I mean, it is what you make of it, kind of like
Yeah.
you've been saying. And yeah, I'll always remember that we went to a Shell and got a frozen pizza and had frozen
That's
pizza and a
hilarious.
strange wine that had been traveling in a container for a while.
It's so funny. When I was thinking back to having the young people who are in basic training, those snapshot memories that you have that are just like you'll never forget. We had one year, it was Thanksgiving, and there were two young women that came, and we had a trampoline in the backyard at the time my kids were younger, and they walked in and they could see the trampoline through the window, and they said, oh my gosh, can we jump? And they ran outside. They took off their boots and they got on the trampoline and jumped with their holding hands and laughing. We were all just in stitches and we had so much fun. But that's one of those snapshot memories that I will never forget. That's great. That's great.
I want to do that. I want to do that one year. So maybe next year, maybe I'll have the whole
yes,
family come here instead and we'll host the.
Yes. It's so great. I would highly recommend it to anybody. It's just every year the experience was different and every year it was wonderful. So I think it's great. I think one thing when you said that about tradition and you said the year you did the pizza, one thing that I would really encourage people to do is tradition is wonderful and we love our traditions, but we also need to make room for them to evolve. And I'm speaking for, I've worked with several young couples this season who are so stressed out because of just being pulled in different directions from families at the holidays. And their morning start, they have little kids and their morning starts, they have to get in the car and go to so-and-so's house because they'll be mad if they don't do that. And then they have to go to so-and-so's house at the end of the day and their kids are exhausted and they're exhausted. But mom will never forgive us if we don't go, and we have to go to stepdad's house or whatever it is, the whole configuration, they try to squeeze it in. So I would just say my plea is especially to people who are kind of my age and maybe grandparents now and all of that, to really respect the new younger families coming up, that they're trying to create their own traditions and set their own boundaries and do things that are important to them, and to really make room for that. So even though maybe forever I have always done Christmas Eve, I need to be willing to make some adjustments as my kids get older and they have children and they have those demands, and to have some conversations ahead of time about like what do you guys think you want to do this year? How is this going to work? And include them in the conversation instead of laying down the law. We've always done it this way. It's never going to change, or I'm going to be mad and I'm going to make you pay for it. Really be flexible and let there be some room for traditions to evolve. And we skipped one thing that I don't want to skip. We talked about it earlier, and that is comments. Okay, so as people come in, especially younger people, maybe people tend to say things like, "You're so pretty. How come you're not married yet?" Or, "When are you going to give us a baby?" Or, "When are you two going to get married? You've been dating for so long." And I will tell you right now, nobody ever appreciates those comments. So don't do it. Just don't say it. Don't go there. Don't ask people why they don't have kids yet or when they're going to have kids. Don't ask them why they're not married, why nobody's, picked them yet or whatever. It never, ever helps. And it just makes people feel badly. And we don't know their story. They may be struggling. They may have chosen not to do it. They may, whatever the reason, we don't know. And I guarantee if they wanted to tell you, they would. So those kind of comments are just not helpful. You agree?
I agree 100%. I think that is a really firm piece of advice because, and I don't always think those things come from a place of malice. Sometimes I think that when we all get together, for some reason, we're really uncomfortable with silence and just like being present with someone. And so sometimes we're just trying to do those things like fill the gap.
Yes.
And what better to fill the gap than an awkward question,
Yes.
because that's where you're at. When you're in the gap place, sometimes we're in an awkward place and we're just searching our brain for something to say next instead of just being okay with just sitting next to someone or just, saying, "Oh, would you like another glass of, tea, or can I get you something? I'm going to get up or I'm going to go take a walk." Like, it's okay to excuse yourself when the conversation has lulled or when it has stopped.
Right.
And I think that that's a place where as a whole, we're very uncomfortable with.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right. I think people rarely mean it in a a way to embarrass or to be cruel or anything like that. But I just think that those questions are never helpful.
Yes. And just because you don't mean it like that doesn't mean that it's still not.
So you can tell yourself, I am not going to ask that question to anybody because it will not. If they have news to tell us that they're getting married or they're going to have a baby or whatever, they will tell us. But we don't need to. We don't need to bring that up first. So yeah. Do you have any other thoughts or any?
I was just thinking, we've talked a lot about expectations and reality. And I mean, basically that's kind of the theme here. And one thing that I talk about a lot, and I don't have a really great visual right here, but we'll kind of make it work. But I just think like we have expectations, then we have our reality, and all the space in between there is disappointment. It's really consumed by disappointment. And so being able to set yourself up with it's fine to, I'm not saying don't have expectations, but just live in a place of reality, live in a place of, this is doable for me. This is something I can achieve without, making myself miserable. It makes me think of whenever I was working in a school district, I would always be the one who dressed up for Halloween or for the spirit days and all of these things. And I enjoy that. But sometimes it was a whole lot of work to get to that point. Just like whenever I would have, we would have holidays, I would want to create these treats. And one time I got overly ambitious because of course I saw a Pinterest that was these cute little Rice Krispie treats that were supposed to be I guess the turkey bone or something like that. No, I mean, I spent all this time, all this energy. They came out, I mean, they were fine, but don't get me wrong. If it was like Pinterest fell, okay, kids loved
Yes.
it. They were fine with it. But for me, I was like, I spent all that time and energy and effort to do this, and for what? Like, I could
Yeah.
have given them a Rice Krispie treat that they opened out of the package, and they would have been just as thrilled.
Yes, for
And so
sure.
sometimes we do things not for ourselves and not for the people that we're actually sewing into, but we do it for what it looks like to everyone else.
Yeah.
And so we need to be really careful with that.
I think that's true. And I think it's a little harder now because everything is so curated and like pictures of the perfection everywhere. It's funny, I walked into Target. We were talking about Target earlier. I walked into Target the other day and I hadn't been in a while, and there were so many like cute holiday this is and that's. There were pillows and there were blankets and there were little signs and there were all these, and I wasn't even in the Christmas section. That was just walking in the door. And I noticed that like the first feeling I felt was this incredible, like, oh my gosh, I should be getting Christmas pillows and doing this. And I started to feel very flooded with this expectation, all these expectations that I should be having my whole house, and I just had to have a little talk with myself and say, I can look at all these things and say they're pretty and I like them. And maybe I'll get a candle today, or I will, get one thing, but I don't need to be, I don't need to feel the pressure from this. But I had to, I think we have to remind ourselves that sometimes that we
Yeah.
can enjoy all the sights, we can enjoy all the pretty things, but if we start trying to do all of those things, we're going to fall short and we're going to feel, I love that visual about
Yeah.
the disappointment, because we'll be falling short. What's the expression that the secret of life is to low expectations? Low expectations, and you're only going to be proud of yourself and feel like a success. So I don't know that that's true, but I think that we have to be
In
careful.
some cases, we need to reel in the expectations. The
Yeah.
other thing that I would say is and this is one that I personally struggle with, and um, you know, um, the saying FOMO, fear of missing out. I just
Yeah.
love to be with, like, hanging out with my sisters or visiting with them, or, whatever everyone's into, I want to be into it because I want to hear it all. I want to have a comment for it.
Yes.
Like, it's my time to just kind of like let loose and have a good time. But what I see is, one thing is, I am not great at staying up late. Like, I am
Me
that's just
neither.
not me. But during the holidays, I tend to stay up later because my family stays up late. Even my parents stay up later than me. I mean, I think they think they like laugh at us. And so, because me and my husband, we both go to bed early. And so when I'm in that environment, I tend to like push myself to stay up
Right.
and do all those things. And then whenever I get home, I've had the best time and I've loved it. But my battery is like
Yes.
depleted. I'm on energy empty. I need to be plugged back in. And sometimes that means that the next week following that, it's just really hard and
Yeah.
so then it's really hard to get back in my own routine that is
Yes.
already established and different things like that. So I guess just for me, that's a boundary issue
Yeah.
because I don't want to miss out on everything that's
Yes.
happening because I just love that time together. But at the same time, I need to be able to say, okay, well, I'm hard out at 11.
Yes. Yes.
And that it's okay to walk away, that they're going to be there tomorrow morning and I will see them in the morning. But sometimes that's really hard for me. So I don't know if anyone else struggles with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, and I think another thing that I've learned about stuff like that that's helped me is to create some buffers on either side. So if I know that I'm going to be pushing my limits and staying up later and all of those things, then especially if I've traveled away, then I need to make a little buffer of time before, if I can. So instead of waiting and getting back Sunday night at midnight,
Yeah.
if I have to go to work on Monday morning, I've learned that I need to come back, as much as I hate it, come back earlier so I can have some time just to plug in
Decompress.
to
Yeah.
decompress, because it will make a huge difference on the week after, and also I'll be able to enjoy myself better if I know that I've got some buffer time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think honoring our own schedules and knowing our limits is really important, because we usually do push it
We
over
do.
the holidays. But hey, that's what the holidays are all about, I guess. We do things that we normally don't do. That's what makes it special, but we need to try to keep some balance there, I think.
Right.
And I think for me, the thing I would like to kind of close, or last thought I have, is
Yeah.
just when we're experiencing all of these wonderful times that we dream about and plan for and all of that, it's so easy to be in the moment and to feel either thinking about what's next. Oh my gosh, I've got all these dishes, or whatever is going to happen the next day. And we kind of don't, we're not really aware or present when we're actually in that moment. And so little mindful moments and ways to tune into the now, so that we can sit there when we're in those things and really just take it all in. And I like to do breathing exercises. I'll do some breaths and kind of look around and tune in with my senses. You can think about, what am I hearing right now? What am I seeing? What are the smells around that I'm smelling in the environment? What does it feel like in the air? And it can help us plug in to right now, instead of having our mind be elsewhere, and then the moment passes and we weren't even really there. So anything that we can do to plug in to the present and to the now, so that we can enjoy the moment and the experience, I think is really valuable. For me, it makes a huge difference. So that's what I would hope that everybody is able to really enjoy the things that matter to them and that are the most precious.
Yeah. Well, I think that was great advice. And I just want to say thank you for giving us some strategies about how to handle this holiday season, because it can be overwhelming. And we do tend to overstress our schedules and overschedule ourselves. There's a saying, it says something like, overwhelmed schedule leads to an underwhelmed life. And so
Oh,
that's something
wow.
that I try
Love
to think
that.
about, and so just remember to give yourself some grace, give yourself some
Yeah.
space, and give others some mercy during this time. Because if we can do
Beautiful.
all three of those things, I think that we can have a successful
Yeah.
holiday season with even people that we don't see eye to eye with, even people that we don't, um, really see besides on a yearly basis.
Yes, I think that's great. I think that's great advice. I love that. I had never heard that expression before, but I really like that a lot.
Yes.
I just want to thank you so much for inviting me to your channel and to
Absolutely.
do this. And it's actually been really good for me, because it's helped me prepare mentally for the holidays coming up, and thinking about the things that are really, that I really hope to be able to experience, and looking forward to that, and letting some other stuff just slide off my plate that
Yes.
don't have any business being there right now,
Yes.
like the perfect cookies, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us for
Thank you all.
episode 3. We had such a great time. This was such a great conversation, and you just have to know I just love Alison and adore her. And any
Oh,
kind of advice or strategies that she can give, I would take it to the bank, because she's a one of a kind, and she's wonderful. So I hope that you enjoy this, and we will see you guys next episode.
happy holidays, everyone.